Well, here is something I never thought I'd say. I bought a Hyundai. And the reason I never thought I'd buy one is because they've always been sort of middle of the road cars, which are perfectly fine, but not really particularly exciting. Hyundais typically seem to be more catered for blasting to the shops than blasting around the Nürburgring, or for taking your Westie to the park rather than doing laps around Cadwell Park. That is until now. So most of you probably know this, but this is a Hyundai I30N. N to Hyundai is what AMG is to Mercedes. It's like the performance division. So the Hyundai I30N is supposed to be a platform to rival something kind of like a Golf GTI. Now I'm going to be real with you, I don't actually know loads about these cars, but from what I've seen already, I quite like it. And with good reason. Let me tell you exactly why. So from what I can tell, the I30N is trying to capture the essence of hot hatchery, which I think some of us are forgetting about, because it's got a manual gearbox, enough power, and a pointy little car, which is a really good combo for blasting around British roads. I'll have to be honest, I was quite happy when I seen this had a manual gearbox. I know they do have an option of an auto. I'm not sure if that's just in the facelift one, but I think that should make it quite fun to drive. It's been a long time since I've driven a front wheel drive manual car with a bit of power anyway, and from what I remember, it was always quite enjoyable. And not that I'm hating on them in any way, shape or form, but a lot of hot hatches these days do seem to go for automatic gearboxes, which does take a little bit away from the driving experience, even though it does make the car faster. And that's why having a manual gearbox for me is quite a nice refreshing change. Now there is more about the car I like than just the gearbox, because that hot hatch essence seems to be spread throughout it consistently. So the wheels themselves are these 19-inch diamond cut ones, which are alright, but the brakes are quite nice and chunky. I believe they're just single pots, but they look a decent size and they look like they're going to work well to me. There's also a bunch of really nice styling accessories around the car to give it a bit more aggression, like the diffuser on the back, the spoiler, the side skirts, and well, we'll come back to the front bumper later. Now, one of the things I quite like about this car is the fact it's sort of the underdog really, because who in their right mind is going to go and buy a brand new Hyundai when you've got the alternatives out there from VW and BMW? Why would you go and pick this? But I think Hyundai knew this when they were building it, because they've really spec'd this car out well in order to compete with the German manufacturers. So on mine, for example, we've got heated seats, heated steering wheel, parking sensors, we've got lane assist, different driving modes that are available on the steering wheel, this Apple CarPlay head unit from factory up here, so there's plenty of tech inside it. And also underneath the bonnet, well, more specifically inside the gearbox, there is a limited slip differential as well, which on these front wheel drive higher powered cars does make them a lot more fun to drive and a lot faster. So to be straight with you, I'm actually really looking forward to driving this car to see what makes it so highly reviewed and actually be competitive against the German market. So now let's talk engine. There is two variants of the i30N. There is a normal one, which comes with a 2-litre turbocharged engine with about 250 horsepower, and then there's the performance pack, which is this one, which I think has about 280 horsepower, which, you know, is a reasonable difference. Now, I'm not sure whether you noticed this, but this car has actually been in an accident, and I wouldn't have known this if it wasn't for Car Vertical. So I went onto Car Vertical's website and put my registration plate in, and it came back with this. So this is the report for my car. As you can see, it's got a green tick for mileage, a green tick for theft because it's not outstanding as stolen. It's got a green tick because it's got no outstanding finance, but it has got an amber warning light for accidents. So we can also see the car's timeline and what's happened to it here. So we can see when it was made, we can see when it's had ownership changes, we can see number plate changes, and also here, like on my car, we can see that it's actually failed an MOT because it had bald tyres. Car Vertical has also checked multiple countries to make sure my car is not outstanding as stolen anywhere in the world. And also we can see this mileage graph here. This indicates that the car's not been clocked or had the miles rolled back at any point because there's no unexpected dips in it. And now for the juicy bit, the damage report. We can see here the car is a Category S write-off and that the damage happened in October last year. Now in some cases, Car Vertical can even show you photos of the car from when it was damaged. Just like this other i30N, we can see the car's got significant front end damage, actually quite similar to mine, but it's also had the airbags deploy, which, as we all know, is no fun. So that's probably going to be one that you'd want to avoid. And to help you guys out so you don't get stung by a car exactly like that one, you can use my discount code Chris or the link in the description, and that's going to save you a nice chunk of cash off your Car Vertical report. Thank you, Car Vertical, for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it. Now, supposedly out the box, the i30N actually sounds pretty good, but there's one main reason why I can't start it, and that is because it's got no keys. And that's a big problem. So we had Mark nip round from Premium Bespoke Auto Works, and he's going to sort that key situation for us. What have we had to do, Mark?
For a start, we have to get the pin and the cut code for the keys. Yep. So now we've got key for opening the emergency door, emergency lock even, yeah? Easy as that. Cut that. We've opened the door, now we're into programming the keys to it. We've got the proper I30N keys. You can only use these I30 keys.
So you can't have fake keys?
No.
Genuine only?
Genuine from Hyundai. So I've already gone through the programming procedure. I've got one more press to do, and then we should have ignition, and then Chris, I'll leave it to you to start it up. So.
Yeah. So as quick as a flash, we have 2 genuine keys for the Hyundai, but before we start it, I need to make sure the fluids are good. So I think we have managed to escape some more serious damage because the inlet manifold here is plastic, but it looks like it's just been missed by all the stuff that's been pushed back when the car's been crashed. But we actually do not have any coolant in the car at all, as you can see, but I will put that down to the fact the radiators took a bit of a sting. So the final thing we need to check before we start the car is making sure it's got some oil in it. So luckily this car actually comes with a dipstick, even though most of my cars these days don't. There's definitely some in there. Is it a healthy amount is the question. I'd say we're looking top notch, top tier. We're ready for a start. Can I have a key please, my friend?
On the dash.
So the car is now ready for its first start, well, potential first startup. Let's see how things go. If the car does run, I think we are off to a good start on this project. I'm a little bit nervous. I can move the seat now. Wow. So we are armed with our 2 fresh keys straight out the box. And we have our little engine start button down here. Let's see. Well, ignition on first, I guess. Oh, maybe not. She's on! Hey! Okay, we've got a few warning lights. We've got traction control, tyre pressure, ABS. I think that's a collision warning. But it sounds good, it sounds sweet. That's, ooh, sounds right. Race mode, where you at? Oh yeah, there. Whoa! That sounds good. I don't actually think I've got a coolant warning light on the dash, which is strange. I mean, that is quite a result. At least it starts, and it sounds healthy, it sounds good, but there is a lot of lights on the dash. So now I'm armed with a key for the car and I can actually start it. Let's pull it forward and have a proper look around it. Hopefully it starts this time anyway. It's in full grandma driving position, I can't lie, but we are off. Will it move under its own power? Oh. I think it's just the tyre rod that's broken, so I should, in theory, be able to drive it forwards because the wheel is straight. So I think we're just going to go with sending it. Definitely ain't wanting to move, but you know. So it does manage to move at least forwards and backwards under its own steam. It wasn't that easy getting it here because while it was coming off the back of the trailer, we did have to keep kicking the front wheel back into tow just to make sure that, you know, the car was going to go straight, but it is here now. So now, if you don't know what these look like, you can get a real good picture of the full 360 view, and I think it is, even though given it's a Hyundai, it's still a pretty good looking car. That would be if it weren't for a few kind of dents or scrapes anyway. Now, one thing with salvage cars that's always sort of interesting is seeing and trying to figure out really what kind of person has owned it before. And normally you can do that by what's left inside the car. So, let's see what we have. A lot of parking tickets, all from Stratford-upon-Avon. So that's probably gives an idea of where the car's from. But there's not really much in here. As far as salvage cars go, this one's pretty tidy. But if I was to guess what sort of person owned this car, I think I've got a good idea. And I'm not one to stereotype, but if I was to stereotype, this is what I'm thinking. So the seating position for me, a little bit odd. So it was kind of, when I got in the car first, it was way back here. So it's someone quite tall that's owned this car before, and it's quite high up. So I feel like there might be, if I had to generalise, a little bit older, you know, not necessarily 19, 20, 21, because, you know, those boy racers would like to sit a bit lower. But there's another reason why I know that it's not a boy racer that's owned this car, and that's because the only item that's left in here is a bottle of soda water. So we know that it's got to be someone middle-aged, I think, that's drinking this. But that's if I had to stereotype. So let's not dwell on that too much. But apart from that, as far as salvage cars go, this is pretty much immaculate. It just needs a good clean. There's a little bit of mould growing on the seat belts in the back, but apart from that, it ain't bad in here. And just so you guys can see, when you start it up, this is what it looks like. So We've got our screen here, which I presume, as I said earlier, does have Apple CarPlay. I feel like it would. Oh, N mode, I like the sound of that. Yes, look at that. Get all your G-force and everything. But anyway, so you can see here, we've got kind of like a half, we've got like a little screen in the middle and then 2 traditional dials either side. And when you start it, I don't like that warning light, the check limited slip differential. That's not a nice one. That's one of those ones that could be expensive, I think. But anyway, this is kind of what the cockpit looks like while you're driving. I'm guessing this is the name of the original owner here. So, hi Jake, thanks for the car. Now, I've just hooked my phone up to the screen and the Apple CarPlay doesn't work. So, I'm not 100% sure why, but I'm sure there's a very good, simple reason. Although that is the least of my worries at the moment. Now I should, in theory, be able to take this plastic covering off because now I've got a key, so I should be able to put the window up. But let's see if we can do that. Like Christmas Day. Oh, sorry, these have got to go, they're just disgusting. So obviously with this car, it does have a few little imperfections, so I think it's only right we quickly run through those. So the first thing is on the boot. There is a slight nick just there, but it's definitely perfectly salvageable and not worth replacing this panel for. Now, the next thing, the back bumper. This one probably, I think this one needs to go. It's got a hole in it, it's scuffed up to a next level. I'd be interested to know how this car has got damage on the back and the front at the same time. It's a bit of a strange one. Then coming round a bit, there is also some damage on the rear quarter, which has took a good knock and is a little bit out of shape, but it does actually look slightly worse than it is just because of the way that the bumper's sat. So if the bumper was sat where it should be, this damage wouldn't look as bad. I think it actually only comes to about here with a tiny little bit just here, so not too bad. There is a small scratch on the front, so we have got a little bit of damage that needs to be repaired. Starting from around here, the wing, obviously, this one's toast, we need to get a new one. I think as far as I can tell though, the inner wing is actually okay, so it should just be that outer skin that needs replacing, but we won't properly know until we get that off. Now, suspension wise, I can't see a reason why anything under here would actually be too horrendous, but like I said, I think there's definitely at least an inner tie rod that's broken there because the steering just isn't playing ball one bit. So, next thing the car needs most definitely is a headlight because, well, there's not much left of this one, so luckily I think those aren't actually too expensive for the i30N, but knowing my luck I'll probably find that this one's a specific headlight which only comes on the N model or something like that, but I can't see that being the case at least. Then obviously we are completely missing a front bumper, so we need to sort one of those out. I'll probably try and find one that's complete rather than buying all the individual pieces because it always works out slightly better, so that's definitely my plan of action with that. And then also we can see down here kind of the rad pack has took a bit of a hit, but the crash bar is actually okay, that's not too bad. But also the radiator, that looks a bit bent, and I'm sure there'll be a little bit more when we strip that back, so that definitely needs a good inspection. But the question is, did I get good value for money on this car? Well, really, in my opinion, it's a tough question to answer. So this car has got 30,000 miles on it. It's a 2019, so that means it's actually got 1 year of warranty left, but somehow I don't think this damage will be covered, but I paid £7,900 for it. And considering something with about the same age and mileage would go for, I think, about 20, I don't think I've done too bad. Now, hopefully this video's turned out okay using these mics on this busy road and you can actually hear what I'm saying, but I have some big plans for this car, so hopefully you guys are on board with the project. Hopefully you like the idea of doing something a little bit different that's not your normal Golf R or BMW M3 or the stuff that you've seen a million times over. But if you are looking forward to this build just as much as I am, don't forget to hit subscribe to make sure you don't miss out. Press the like button while you're there, and I'll catch you next time.